Factorio is a factory construction and survival game. Covering every detail would drive me more into the abyss. At the time of recording, it's dark outside. I don't know if I'm closer to the sun setting or rising. People call this game Cracktorio for good reason. I've always had to be careful with it. I could never seem to play just a bit of Factorio. Like any hard drug, you can go, that looks fun, but by the time you recognize you're in the spiral, it's already too late. The premise itself is deceptively simple. You've crash landed on an alien planet and need to figure out how to build a rocket to escape it. At the same time, you need to deal with the locals. They're not too happy about you dumping uranium in their water supply and everything else you get up to. You know how in Subnautica, Space Law says you're not allowed to 3D print guns? In Factorio, you make rogue nuclear weapons. Then you could slap a multi-nuke launcher in a spider mech just to see if there's a god out there that'll stop you. Well, they're either not here or they approve of my actions.
Brain bugs? Frankly, I find the idea of a bug that thinks offensive.
So you need to get to space by any means necessary. And any means necessary always means expanding the factory. There are plenty of game modes including multiplayer with PvP, a map editor, scenarios, you name it. But for this, I'll mainly be focusing on free play, the chosen way. It has tons of options, and you can customize your game how you see fit. Factorio is not instantly overwhelming, it's a journey. So I'm going to start off small and then work my way up. From a humble craftsman to a Dateline NBC story. I find Factorio visually appealing, in the same way as I did for Brigador. All the machinery in the game has an insane amount of detail to it. The animation and resolution is great, and it should be for a game about factories. But the scale the game could get to is gigantic. This one here is pretty compact by Factorio standards. You could go with a sprawling main bus design with efficient and beautiful parallel production, but that would make too much sense and bugs keep attacking me. So instead of being an architectural Rain Man, you could just be a spaghetti chef like me. You might even have a magical Mechanicus moment, where after dozens of hours playing, you're not entirely sure how the factory works anymore. Where does light oil go? I don't know. Why is this belt such a mess? Did I fix it, or was there a reason and I broke something? At this point, a stranger could reasonably understand the Wonka factory better. So the assets are great, but the readability of your factory is all on you. These are some filthy machines, and you'll see the effects of their pollution over time. Once again, there's a lot of detail here. Pollution is a trackable stat. How much a tree absorbs is based on its leaf density. They really spared no expense here. Pollution also has an effect on the neighboring aliens. Consuming pollution makes them evolve into larger and deadlier forms, and soon they'll be at the door to rip down your factory. The aliens and their weapons are all biological, the perfect enemy. At the same time, they're interesting. I'm not sure if natural creatures would want to rip down the buildings giving them growth hormone. And while they are horrible bugs, they also have these big expressive eyes. So they're strangely cute. Maybe other aliens made them to protect the planet. But you know what? Them pooping in the woods and not using a cell phone doesn't make them better than me. Factorio also comes with a pleasant soundscape. The hum of industry is ever present. Hey, war's my business too. The actual quality of sound effects does jump around a bit. The important thing is that it's never grating. It gets the job done. The sound even reduces when you open up your inventory, just to help you concentrate better. The music follows the same kind of direction. The tracks range from being tense to kind of lonely, but never too distracting to your work. Think of it like study music. I really don't have much to say on it. Like the factory itself, it works fine. So that brings us to the gameplay, and the constant struggle. The factory must grow. It looks like Pol Pot over here is angry about the latest oil refinery. That's no problem. If you've seen the trailers or a high-end factory, the game might look overly complex, but it's really not. Things start out easy, and there are plenty of tutorials you can use to master the harder stuff. For a brief time, you mine resources by hand. This is basically a joke, but it does teach you what can be collected because you're not a god machine yet. You use miners that are slow and use fuel, but automate the process. So that'll work for a while and you might find some tricks, but there must be a better way, and there is. Electrical miners are way better, but they need power. So you get a boiler and steam engine to power the grid. With belts and a robotic inserter arm, it even fuels itself. But a single engine only makes so much power, so you need to make more, which means more fuel. The ore you collect is smelted down into plates. In turn, they go inside of an assembler to make an item, and more items can go in more assemblers. Green chip, red chip, blue chip, robot. That's the beauty of Factorio. They're relatively simple tasks, but they feed into complicated outcomes. You're also not overwhelmed because you don't start with everything from the get-go. You need to research them through technology. That's done by feeding items into a lab building. So the factory is constantly thirsty for brain potions, but the more you feed it, the more wonders you unlock. Take the bugs. Sure, you could just go shoot the bugs, but with research you could set up a wall and turret choke point. However, gun turrets need to be loaded, so I went and made a mini ammo factory for the wall. It's a shooting gallery down there, but it'll be hard for the guns to run dry. That is, until the bugs start getting bigger. While the laser turrets never run dry. As long as the power grid holds up, I should be fine. As it turns out, lasers need a lot of power. Bugs at the wrong time can mean the entire factory shuts down.
I didn't like that.
Flamethrower turrets are good but need oil, and the bugs are on the oil, so it's back to the lab. Custom power armor is usually a good solution, but an expensive one. There are tons of ways to approach most problems, and Factorio will constantly having you say, you can do that? Because sure, you could upgrade belts or have belts upgraded for you, but you could use a completely new method like trains. Multiple trains, all running automatically on the same network with a signal system. Better fuel gives better speed and acceleration, so the next thing you know, you want nuclear trains. Factorio has options that let you go deeper here, but you don't have to. There's an entire circuit and signal system to learn. You never really need it. The thing is, nuclear trains are fast. They kept teaching me hard lessons when I wasn't paying attention.
It's coming. Get off the trains.
Get off. Ooh! That was so close. Now I could just OSHA the place up. And I did, but I also learned enough about signals to make an alarm. Because the last thing I need are more workplace accidents.
Get that suit off, man. You're in trouble. Don't worry, I'll heal you.
How bad is it?
You've got a minor blunt force trauma. I recommend eggs.
There's the option to forego trains and make really long belts and pumps. How about a logistics network for robots? Items can be sent where they need to go or brought to you automatically. Hell, they can build and maintain on their own. You can ascend from your body and control everything with robots. The release version added a Spidertron robot mech thing which you can equip with a grid just like power armor, so you can build one with robots and blueprints and send it out into the wild to make a new base. I enjoy games that scale from you being a doofus into a god. This is a good one of those. You go from learning about belts and coal to mastering uranium enrichment and nuclear power. There's always something more to learn or do. You're constantly after the next big building or tech or upgrade. It's a lot to do, and as a wise man once said, Ritalin really helps. This also ties into what makes the multiplayer so worthwhile. Any game is fun with friends, we all know that. Factorio does support things like that with aspects like having multi-crewed vehicles, but there's a more meta aspect to it. The game has so much in it that it's likely other players know stuff that you don't. When did they add filters into splitters? You get more quick bars from the interface menu? Oh.
I will begin the depopulation process.
I could talk a long time on how many systems there are and all the things you can do, but that's just an instruction manual at that point. This has just been a peek into the veil of madness. It's dangerously addictive, but there are some shortcomings. Most I don't notice until I'm dozens of hours in and it's too late for me, but here's an example. The concrete. You can place it down to move much faster, and it's used in some higher-end buildings. For a much higher investment, you can turn it into refined concrete. You can put this down to move slightly faster, and nothing else. No higher-tier walls or buildings, nothing. So to compare the investment, it just doesn't seem worth it. Just strange gaps like that. You have 3 types of furnaces, but only 2 kinds of drills. A few buildings seem like they could use a variant, or at least some more tech. The game wants you to use modules and beacons, but that always pales in comparison to shiny new buildings. I also find the endgame kind of weak. The aliens only have 2 kinds of units to send at your base, and while they do get bigger and meaner, they're not very challenging or exciting. I've yet to see them breach the self-replicating minefield. Maybe building the rocket silo could send them into a frenzy. Let's see how strong the factory really is. You have the option to stay on the planet and research repeatable techs, but it doesn't feel like much, and it's already overkill. If the enemies were deadlier, the Spidertrons could be great to focus on. Maybe give them something like a virtual rail patrol path. Truly ascend into almost StarCraft instead of the remote that doesn't, well, it has issues. Also, what is this blueprint save system? I mean, it's like separated, but no. Of course, it's really easy to think of things to just add on to Factorio. I won't be going down that rabbit hole, but it does seem strange there's no kind of recycling building, even if it was a horribly inefficient one. Otherwise, you do end up with useless items that you just shove in a box and shoot. They are small issues, and there are mods to address nearly all of them. I would show some examples, but if I look at the mod page, I might not be coming back. The modding scene is truly sprawling, so enter if you dare. I can't recommend Factorio enough. It can truly suck you in. 1.0 may be here, but the developers are threatening to release more updates. I don't think I should be allowed to see them for my own safety. You can buy it from GOG at the pinned link, but at no current discount because I think they realize they're selling virtual crack. At least you have 30 days to try it compared to Steam's 2 hours. Losing control of my life has never been so convenient. However, October is coming. I talked about ghosts and ghouls last year, but no aliens. We'll have aliens this year. I'll see you then.
Why is it doing that?
There won't be a Halloween video a week like last year, but something's being cooked up. What game do you never uninstall? Deus Ex and Morrowind. They're huge games, but pretty small file size. No reason not to have them on hand. Am I going to open the Pandora's box of Factorio modding? No, unless I do plan on making a Factorio mod video. I've seen those Angel Bob ones and the aircraft ones, and if I get into it, I might not be getting out. I am legitimately afraid what could happen. Any horse in the console wars? Not really. I'll probably get a PS5 eventually for the 4K Blu-ray player and the games on it. My PC is fine, so no real reason to get an Xbox. Who knows, maybe things will change. What would you be doing if YouTube didn't happen? I'd be doing my old job instead of contract work. I know for a fact they're always busy and Corona really wouldn't slow them down or anything like that. I'd still be making these, just a lot slower. Is there a mechanic devs keep adding that I don't like? Well, not really a mechanic, but more of an open world design. The completely useless ones. Where the map is basically empty save collectibles and it's just to kill time. I never get it. Anyways, that's it for now. Oh! It's a girl!